What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and there's been a lot uncovered surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows and the inner workings of this game. This entire thing is filled to the brim with DEI nonsense, and I'll even prove it to you. Seriously, there's so much to go over, it's ridiculous, and one of the writers is a big fan of Sweet Baby. And one of the consultants on the game has published books pertaining to adult-on-child romances. And the Japanese player base are pissed, and that's putting it lightly. I wish I was kidding, but you'll see. Let's just get into this, cause my god, what a mess. As you likely already know, the backlash surrounding Shadows has been nothing short of nuclear. People are fighting all over the internet about this inclusion of Yasuke as a playable character. According to one senior writer at Ubisoft, Yasuke is mandatory for Shadows. This article goes into more about that from that Park Place titled, "Senior writer for Assassin's Creed Shadows declared there's more than enough games out there with white men as the only playable characters, let's do better." The writer in question is named Giles Armstrong. Don't harass this person or anyone else, by the way, that I feature in this video. Let's just observe and then deconstruct what's going on here instead. But as if you needed confirmation, yes, Giles is a white guy who is openly renouncing his own skin color for brownie points, I guess. He's also working on Shadows, since he confirmed it himself on Twitter, where he said, "Now that Ubisoft Sofia has been confirmed as working on it, I can finally reveal I was a senior writer on Assassin's Creed Shadows, working under the guidance of Ubisoft Quebec and the excellent Alyssa. I can tell you, you're all in for a treat." Giles has also been found to say things that can be considered anti-white rhetoric, which is so overdone at this point and pathetic, but what do we expect from Western studios these days? In March 2018, Giles retweeted an image of Chadwick Boseman meeting fans outside of a Black Panther screening where he said, "Hey game devs, when I say in our meetings that representation matters, well, see for yourself. Everyone wants to see a positive version of themselves on screen. Everyone. There's more than enough games out there with white men as the only playable characters. Let's do better." Although it's not about being better, it's more so about erasure if anything else, since as many have already pointed out across the internet, Yasuke being a playable main character in a Japanese-centric Assassin's Creed game is not what many fans wanted, especially Japanese fans in particular. As Forbes said in their recent article titled, "Japanese fans are puzzled that Yasuke is in Assassin's Creed Shadows." The Forbes article recites Manga Lawyer as an example who compiled what some Japanese players were saying once they saw the Shadows premiere trailer, and it's, well, I'll let them speak for themselves. One user said, "A game where black people massacre Japanese people in the Sengoku period is a perfect example of Ubisoft. Is this what happens when political correctness is taken to the extreme?" Let's stop here for a second, because what this user said is absolutely correct. It's very tone-deaf and telling of the game's industry that they're celebrating someone like Yasuke being in Shadows, yet his inclusion and what he's doing within that game is the same thing that they complain about when it comes to other games like Resident Evil 5. In Resi 5, you play as Chris Redfield, who's obviously white in Africa shooting zombies that are obviously black in order to protect himself. This is apparently racist in the eyes of places like IGN and The Gamer, and even according to people like Jacksepticeye, Resident Evil 5 can't be remade because it's inherently racist and problematic. And because of the cultural dissonance of a white man in Africa where he's not from shooting black people, this somehow means that the game should never be remade, but instead be completely changed in every way if a remake is decided to happen. On the flip side, we have Yasuke, who is exactly like Chris Redfield in terms of position. He's a black man in Japan, where he obviously doesn't originate from. And he's shown in the trailer to be cutting down Japanese men like they're nothing more than bamboo branches standing in the way of his mission. So why is it that when Chris Redfield is protecting himself from not becoming a zombie against black zombies, and he's in Africa, which is predominantly inhabited by black people, that is somehow problematic? Yet a black man slicing Japanese men without remorse is not only okay, but glorified as well. It's a double standard of the highest degree is what it is, and there's no excusing that. Based on this alone, Shadows having Yasuke doing what he's doing is technically racist within itself if we are applying the same logic that they have with Resident Evil 5 and Chris. But of course, it's only racist in Resi 5's case because Chris is a white man, therefore he is seen as some sort of cultural appropriating predator because of his skin color. Yet Yasuke is fine because he's a black man, even though if we compare the two, Yasuke is literally wearing the armor of the people that he slays without remorse. How is it that Yasuke is fine but Chris is racist? It's ridiculous, and this is what this user is saying, although of course I expanded their logic to further explain it here, but you get what I mean. If we're going to be crying and pissing ourselves because Resi 5 is racist apparently, then the same people should keep that energy with Shadows. But it's simply because, ultimately, Shadows stars a black man whereas Resi 5 has a white guy. I guarantee you, if Shadows starred William Adams, who was a white man that established trade routes in Japan, and it was the same trailer and everything, just a white guy instead, these same publications would cry racism and say that it's cultural appropriation. They're hypocrites is what it is ultimately, and I'm sick of seeing it. Here's more of what other users in the post said, like, "The sword is in the wrong position, it's no good to have it open at your side." So Ubisoft apparently doesn't even understand sword placement in terms of traditional Japanese weapons. Well, it gets even worse. "I wanted Yasuke to appear as an ally. Are they mocking Japan? They should have made someone like Saizo Kirigakakuri," I said that wrong, but whatever, an assassin. By the way, that Saizo guy is a fictional character in Japanese mythology that was considered one of the greatest ninjas in Japanese folklore. He's akin to Japanese mythology the same way Thor is for Nordic people. Another of the 10 ninjas in Japanese myth is Sasuke, who I don't need to tell you how many characters in modern media have used the name Sasuke or Saizo before. Look at Naruto alone. Another user then said, "It's a bit disappointing. I wanted to play as a Japanese ninja. It's my favorite game since I started with Syndicate and have played everything, so this is sad. But this next one is oof," and it says, "I don't think there are any Japanese people supervising the architecture. It's Chinese and filled with lanterns, torii gates, and paper lanterns, so it doesn't feel like this. I think the Shogun stands out after the good examples in the drama, so Ubisoft is being called out by actual Japanese players for not only pandering by including Yasuke, but they also apparently can't get weapon positions right or the architecture either. You know it's bad when Japanese players can watch one trailer and immediately say, 'Hey Ubisoft, your game is full of Chinese architecture, not Japanese.' Good lord, this is a mess, man. You can tell this was made by liberal white people who know nothing about anything, but simply saw a black guy mentioned once in Japanese stories and went, 'That's our ticket to DEI fame.' Manga Lawyer on Twitter compiled even more comments by Japanese players that said stuff like, 'It may have existed in real life, but when a foreigner like this appears in a historical drama-like world, it just seems like a gag. This sense of discomfort is like seeing a Japanese person appear at the Boston Tea Party.' And they're right, but it gets worse because another one said, 'Up until now, the main characters have been the original local races and ethnic groups. But why did they become different races when it comes to Japan?' This person is completely right, by the way. Every other time it's been the case except now." And then this one is the zinger, which said, "For the first time I understood what cultural appropriation was." Oh man, do I feel for Japanese players. They waited so long to see an Assassin's Creed game set in their homeland, and then Ubisoft took the piss and ruined them for DEI brownie points. Of course, some people are trying to play gotchas in this situation, saying, well, why wasn't anyone angry about Edward Kenway in Assassin's Creed 4? He's a white guy in the Caribbean. Even one user who I'm like 99% sure is the same person who painted those Warhammer figurines into various gender flags. Anyway, they said this on Twitter. Game said in the Caribbean, play as a Welshman. I wonder why that one wasn't included. Yeah, I can answer that, by the way. The reason why it isn't included is because during the golden age of piracy, the actual notorious pirates of that time were predominantly European people. We're talking Irish, Welsh, which is what Edward Kenway is, by the way, English, and even French. The pirates of that time were using the Caribbean as their playground, but of course I don't expect woke weirdos to know anything about history anyways. Most of these people only know what their equally woke school teachers and professors told them, which is largely just a tailored version of history. They probably also think that Cleopatra was indeed a black woman too, because diversity. But no, the pirates that roamed the seas attacking British and French ships during the age of piracy were not black, even though it was set in the Caribbean. There's a reason why the French and British armies were having so much trouble with these pirates. It's because the pirates knew how they operated, their trade routes, and used weaponry and tactics of equal standing because they came from the same places as those same government officials. My god, I can't believe I need to explain basic history like this, but I shouldn't be surprised anymore these days. So using Edward Kenway as some sort of gotcha against Yasuke is moronic, so just stop. Please wear a helmet, cause clearly your brain is already damaged enough, and while we're at it again, stop using Neo as some sort of gotcha as well. The game is literally about fighting demons and summoning spirit animals that come out of your soul to kill stuff. I hate it here sometimes, but nothing really brings out the stupidity in the online community like a good controversy does it. It is sad and pathetic that Ubisoft has decided to culturally appropriate Japanese players' heritage in the name of woke diversity points. Every other game has featured an assassin from that region of the world. Even Valhalla, which predominantly takes place in England, starts in Norway with their Viking Assassin 2 at least, but here it's just let's throw everything out and pander. Another one of the writers is someone named Mossenmind on Twitter. Also, don't harass this person, by the way. They're apparently the lead writer on Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they work and operate within Quebec City. Fans have pointed out that if you look at her follows, she does indeed follow Sweet Baby Inc., which makes sense, honestly, given the state of Shadows. Their influence can be felt all throughout the game's announcement. Need I remind you that Sweet Bing Bong Baby also operates within Quebec as well. And the founders of the baby originally met working at Ubisoft, so it's one gigantic echo chamber. But it's funny how whenever things get made these days, they always think that you need a person who looks like someone to write or direct the thing, kinda like how Black Panther as a movie had a bunch of black individuals working on it. Even though Black Panther was made by two white guys in a small room smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey. Anyway, this Alyssa person is clearly not a black person, so why are they writing a story about Yasuke and Naoe? This is clearly racist, Ubisoft. I can't believe this. You have to do better because racism, I guess. Not to mention, if we circle back to the other senior writer, that Giles Armstrong guy, he unironically said things like this in the past. Game Devs of Color Expo said back in 2020, several non-black game devs and artists have offered to mentor and assist black game devs and artists with their career. If you want to help, please reply to this thread, and if you're a black game dev who needs support, share your work. To which white savior Giles Armstrong replied by saying, "Thanks for kicking this off. Game writing is a tough field even with all the privilege of being a cis white male. Based on how very few black game writers I see, I can only imagine how much harder it must be. For advice on game writing and portfolio pieces, I'm here." Thank you, Giles Armstrong, for being the white savior you are. How could the black game devs in the industry ever hope to accomplish anything without your guiding white hand? Everybody, please, a round of applause for Giles Armstrong. After all, he is the enemy. He's a straight white male. So he's basically Satan incarnate, but at least he's willing to help out those he sees beneath him. It's pathetic, by the way, that people like Gies and others treat black people like this. They don't need your help. Stop treating them like they're beneath you or something. I can only imagine how much harder it must be to be a black game dev. Really, Giles? Are you really going to pull that card? If you ever needed an example of the blatant racist undertones of many woke weirdos working in gaming, this is a prime example. Stop looking at other people regardless of skin color or gender as somehow being beneath you or needing your help, otherwise they can't succeed. Black people can succeed without your white savior complex. It's disgusting. Stop looking at other people as less or weaker because of the color of their skin. It's insane that I need to say this, but I guess I have to. The white savior complex is strong after all. Look at the video they released following Shadow's announcement where two white game devs tell you how inspiring it was to have Yasuke be their main character. The trailer has game director Charles Benoit and associate narrative director Brooke Davies, and here's what they had to say about their white savior complex within Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I quote, "With our dual protagonists, we have two fantasies, the samurai and the shinobi. We want the player to experience both. And we cannot squeeze both fantasies into one character because the samurai and shinobi come from different social classes. They have different lives, so we cannot really mix them together. The historical character of Yasuke presented a really exciting opportunity for the narrative team. We approached it in the same way that so much of the work is done in Assassin's Creed, which is really in terms of research and history first. Not a lot is known about him, but what we did know, or what we do know, is that he arrived in Japan in 1579 right when our game starts. And that he had relationships with some of the most interesting people in our setting like Oda Nobunaga, the Portuguese, and Jesuits, which made it very sort of tantalizing and enticing from a narrative perspective to come in and start weaving these facts with story in between. The more we read that about the character, the more he was inspiring for us. He's a foreigner discovering Japan, and we thought it's the perfect fit because he's discovering Japan and you are discovering Japan also. And on the flip side, we have Naoe, who comes from the province of Iga, which is a remote mountainous area fiercely independent and known as the birthplace of shinobi. So they're very contrasting perspectives that really expose a lot of different sides and facets of the era. When Oda came, he completely destroyed Iga. You have Yasuke and Oda. They are coming to destroy the shinobi, so it kind of created this interesting tension between two characters. We were able to connect her to the province of Iga in the legendary Igan shinobi historical figure Fujibayashi Nagato, who's her father in the game. So we understand why she has the skills that she has and the values that she learns from her father and the people of Iga, which are valor, benevolence, and wisdom. And as a young person still at the start of the game, we get to see Naoe acquire even more of that wisdom as the story unfolds, end quote. So instead of actually letting the historical figures be who they are within this setting, like Fujibayashi Nagato, who is one of the legendary Iga shinobi, you instead get to play his gender-bent fake daughter who does everything he does, but she's a woman, so DEI score goes burr, I guess, I don't know. And Yasuke, of course, is their other trump card, and according to them, Yasuke is killing and mowing down Japanese people like cattle, and that's totally fine cause diversity and whatnot. Doesn't make any sense as to why Yasuke and Naoe would team up if the first time they meet he's literally killing her friends and family without remorse. Like the dude is mowing people down like they're nothing and she's like, hell yeah, I want to team up with this guy. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. What's also hilarious is another user wanted to see if ChatGPT could accurately tell if Naoe was a woman or not, and the results are chef kiss to put it lightly. Here's what ChatGPT said when asked, is this character male or female, to which it replied, the character in the image has androgynous features, making it difficult to definitively determine their gender based on appearance alone. The character's hairstyle, clothing, and expression do not provide clear gender indicators. The character could be male, female, or non-binary. Context from the source material would be needed to determine the character's gender accurately. So there you have it. Not even AI can tell if Ubisoft's gender-bent female Fujibayashi Iga ninja is even a woman or not. But to show you how badly Western ideals have fallen, the same user then put Tali from Mass Effect, who by the way is a literal alien who wears an exosuit to hide their appearance, and here's what ChatGPT had to say about that. Based on the visual cues and body shape in the image, the character appears to have a feminine physique. The design elements such as the narrow waist, the curvature of the hips, and the overall silhouette are commonly associated with female character designs in various forms of media. However, without additional context, this is just an interpretation based on visual characteristics. You know it's bad when AI can accurately scan a picture of a fictional alien and go, yeah, this is a woman, but when given an actual human being made by modern Western devs, the AI is like, yeah, we got nothing, bro. Just crazy, dude. And beyond that, who the hell helped write this game? Well, this next story is just, oh boy. Okay, so IGN recently posted an article about people who helped bring Shadows to life. By the way, the game is called Shadows and stars a black man. I mean, come on, but let's keep going. One of the people involved directly with Shadows, and they also spoke to IGN, is someone named Sachi Schmidt Hori, who is apparently a professor of Japanese literature. They praised Yasuke and all of that and gave the kind of answer Ubisoft would want because, you know, public relations and all of that. What's really weird is that this Professor Hori person is known for a book they published that is titled, and I can't believe this is real, Tales of Idolized Boys, Male-Male Love, and Medieval Japanese Buddhist Narratives. Yeah, you heard that right, that's a real book that somebody made. What's the book about exactly? Well, let's read the synopsis and I quote, in medieval Japan, 14th to 16th centuries, it was customary for elite families to entrust their young sons to the care of renowned Buddhist priests, from whom they received a premier education in Buddhist scriptures, poetry, music, and dance. When the boys reached adolescence, some underwent coming-of-age rites, others entered the priesthood, and several extended their education, became Chigo or Buddhist acolytes. Chigo served their masters as personal attendants and as sexual partners. During religious ceremonies adorned in colorful robes, their faces made up and hair styled in long ponytails, they entertained local donors and pilgrims with music and dance. Stories of acolytes from the 14th to 16th centuries form the basis of the present volume. An original and detailed literary analysis of 6 tales coupled with a thorough examination of the socio-political, religious, and cultural matrices that produce these texts. Sachi Schmidt Hori begins by delineating various dimensions of Chigo, the Chigo title, personal names, gender, sexuality, class, politics, and religiosity. To show the complexity of this cultural construct, the Chigo as a triple liminal figure who is neither male nor female, child nor adult, human nor deity. A modern reception history of Chigo Monogatari follows, revealing not surprisingly that the tales have often been interpreted through cultural paradigms rooted in historical moments and worldviews far removed from the original. From the 1950s to 80s, research on Chigo was hindered by widespread homophobic prejudice. More recent aversion to the age gap in historical master-accolade relations has prevented scholars from analyzing the religious and political messages underlying the genre. Schmidt-Hori's work calls for a shift in the strategies applied to Chigo and Chigo Monogatari, and puts forth both a nuanced historization of social constructs such as gender, sexuality, age, and agency, and a mode of reading propelled by curiosity and introspection, end quote. You heard that right, the lady Ubisoft hired to help write and oversee the story of Shadows has chronicled the history of old man monks who slept with their child proteges. And more so than that, this Professor Hori wants to normalize the discussion surrounding this concept and make it more acceptable. She thinks people have the wrong mentality when they realize that these old man monks quite literally recruited and groomed young children into their carers and slaves. And she thinks it's homophobic and prejudiced that forbids this from being more widespread and normalized. Dear Professor Hori, no, just no, sorry, but you're never going to make me be okay with child and adult relations in a romantic manner. I don't care how you word it or try to dance around the topic, it's creepy as hell and insanely weird no matter how we splice it. Those monks are weirdos, the children they abused are victims, and you're a weirdo for trying to normalize it, and you'll probably read these documents and realize that you could swindle the history in a way to prop yourself up as some scholar by interweaving it with identity politics. And now, clearly because of your work about old monks touching children, you've secured yourself a consulting job on Assassin's Creed Shadows. I swear to God, if there's a quest in the game where you have to save some little monk boy and bring it back to his predator old man monk mentor, I'll become the Joker. There is nothing we should be normalizing about any of this. Stop trying to make adult-child relations something that we should see as normal. Children cannot consent under any circumstance, and the more these people try to push that narrative, the more blatantly weird and creepy it becomes. History was right to silence and not want to normalize that particular slice of history because it's freaking weird. Next, you're gonna tell me that other victims had it coming too when it came to history or something. Just no. She even further explains herself in her own academic profile as, I am interested in investigating how gender, sexuality, corporeality, and power are represented and negotiated in pre-17th century Japanese narratives and illustrations. My first book, Tales of Idolized Boys, Male Love and Medieval Japanese Narratives, University of Hawaii Press 2021, is on medieval Chigo Monogatari, Buddhist acolyte tales, which often depict romantic relationships between Buddhist priests and adolescent boys. These tales challenge a host of normative and moral standards we academics especially internalize, including such ideas as sexual orientation, transgenerational sex, and sexual agency. My current project is on the literary representations of male kinships in pre-17th Japanese tales. What the hell is male kinship? God damn it, now I gotta Google this. I'm gonna be put on a list because of the weird stuff I gotta Google because of these people. Okay, apparently male kinship is an Islamic belief that it creates a bond between a woman and her non-biological child. Wait, what? She's writing a book about people breastfeeding babies that aren't theirs? What? Why are you like this, Professor Weirdo? Just why? Good God, man. First it's about child predators, now it's about breastfeeding kids that aren't even yours. What is Ubisoft doing over there? Seriously. Does anybody vet these people before they hire them? Am I crazy in thinking that this stuff is insane? Apparently this male kinship thing was done back in the day to make the child become more at home, I guess, with a second family. So if the first family that the kid originates from was killed or whatever disaster fell upon them, they would feel at home with the second mother of another family. I don't know about you, but I don't think kids need to be sucking on the badonkadonks of family friends to feel welcomed in their households. Maybe that's just me, but seems like a pretty weird custom. Can we move on from this milk drinking point? This is just awkward at this point for everybody involved. Look, I don't know what the hell Ubisoft is smoking over there, but it's clear they found the weirdest Japanese professor of gender studies they could, and this makes me even more unhopeful that this game will be awful. You've pissed off legions of Japanese Assassin's Creed fans already with this. Every trailer for this game in every language has been disliked into oblivion. And not only that, but Ubisoft is pushing Shadows as some single-player live service nonsense all over again. Like, look at this, man. Look at all the special editions they got. Early access, DLC, expansions, play it with your subscription, etc. Like, why are you turning Assassin's Creed into this? Why is it that every other game pretty much respected their time periods and gave players what they wanted for the most part? Yet when it comes to one of the most highly requested eras of the franchise, you pull this. If it isn't turning Oda Nobunaga's buddy into some make-believe samurai Terminator that's mowing down Japanese people, it's milk kinships and child predators and just more being normalized. My God. This whole thing stinks, man. It reeks the more I look into it. You got writers disavowing their own nationality because they're white as some weird virtue signaling angle. Professors who shouldn't be allowed within 5 meters of any school or public area. And you've pissed off an entire nation by implementing bad sword positioning and Chinese architecture over Japanese. I would say this reveal has been nothing short of a mess, but even I didn't expect it to be this bad. And let's end this video with the hypocrisy of websites. Just remember that when Nioh came out, places like Slant Magazine reviewed Nioh when it came out in 2017 and said stuff like this in their review. It's a shame that the game saddles itself with telling the story of the first Gaijin samurai, William Adams. Yes, he's an actual historical figure. In fact, John Blackthorne in James Clavell's 1975 novel Shogun is based on Adams. But given how much of a blank slate Williams ends up being over the course of the game's story, there's no logical reason why he needed to be our gateway into this world instead of a native with actual skin in the game, pun intended. They were mad then that an actual historical white guy who came to Japan became the hero of Nioh, and the game was made by Japanese too, by the way. So will Slant Magazine have the same mentality when Shadows Arise and Yasuke is in it? Of course not. They'll probably praise it. They'll say it was daring of Ubisoft and it was amazing and all of that. This is what we're dealing with. Blatant historical revisionism blanketed by woke lunatics who want to normalize child-adult relationships. That is apparently the legacy of Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. And as a jaded Assassin's Creed fan, I am just beside myself at how awful this has all turned out. Let me know what you think as always. Thank you for watching, and if there's more, I'll cover it, but for now, this is just awful, man. Thanks to my patrons for their support. Like, subscribe, and share, and have a wonderful day. Don't lose hope, guys. I'll keep pushing, and I'll do my best to keep you informed, and I'll see you in the next one.